Next question is around early stage products which haven't achieved product market fit yet. So how do you optimize for them? Do you optimize for growth at all, or how do you optimize for products which are still don't have enough traction and haven't yet achieved product market fit?
So this, I think, is also my favorite phase of the life cycle of a product. It's what I've spent most of my time on. I think it's very easy in this early stage because you have enough customers who you can actually speak to directly, and
Mhm.
they will tell you exactly what you need to do in order to achieve product market fit, either directly or indirectly. So I think here, more than metrics, you really need to be good at observing and listening to your customers, and building ways to actually go ahead and systemically listen to your customers. Like a 10,000 customers, they like a 10-member team will not be able to listen to their customers. So how do you set up the systems to listen to your customers? I think that will tell you whether you are heading towards product market fit or not.
Yep, absolutely. And maybe just a follow-up to that, at what stage do you start optimizing for growth really? Is it right after product market fit, or is there any balance that you strike between, optimizing for PMF versus optimizing for growth really? So is there any such balance that you look at?
So I think for PMF versus growth, it's usually a spectrum, and I'm assuming when you're saying growth, it's inorganic means of driving growth, right? So
Right.
I think the way, at least I would paraphrase the question for myself, is how do you make the investment decisions in inorganic growth? And in order to do that, what I tend to do is look at the common ROI metrics. So if it's the LTV, or if you're smaller, you might not use LTV because you don't have enough cohorts, right? So if it's your week one retention, right? Is the additional incremental money that you're spending leading to like the same quality of W1 retention? That is one possibility. Or if the W1 retention is actually going down, then are you okay with that investment or not? And up till what point? So you define the constraint or the metric there. And these are again like the principle that we had shared, right? These are decisions that you make before you start spending the money, so that you don't change the goalpost later, right? So that is usually how I approach these PMF versus growth questions.
I see a question around convincing your boss or manager for experiments, etc. But I think on a larger context, what we can talk about is stakeholder management. How do you manage stakeholders effectively? If you have, say, if you are a PM who's starting out, you might have maybe 2, 3 layers until the CEO. So any tips around stakeholder management as such?
Yeah, so I have three. One is, it helps usually if you have common goals. In most well organized and well led companies, that typically tends to happen. Um, I think if you convince everyone about why something is important, I think that also really helps. Um, and I think the third one is just investing in relationships, forming relationships, right? Trying to help people if and when possible. um, being responsive on emails, I that's an area of improvement for me. I have room to improve on that, but being responsible, so basic things, right? Like um, giving people feedback, asking people for feedback, that also is another thing that helps. So that's all in the relationships bucket. Yeah, I think that's that's sorry, I don't have like some insight. These
Yeah.
are really basic, so I think these three things help with stakeholder management.
How important is for PMs to know about tech side of analytics and metrics? I think this is around instrumentation and understanding the tech behind it. Is it important, or is it usually taken care by the developers or the tech team in companies?
So I think it depends on, I'll tell you what it might depend on. Just give me a few seconds. So I think one is, it depends on the context of your product. So if you're working on a product which is um, more consumer focused, um, let's start with the user. It depends on your type of user. If you're working on a B2B or a developer product, that helps, like a postman, for example, right? Then of course it does make sense for you to be as technical as possible, because your users are also technical. However, on the other end of the spectrum, let's say you're working on a product for musicians. You're trying to build a new type of DJ console. There, maybe knowing more about music and how the product is used may be more important than the exact technicalities of the product. But given all else, I think it's a question of prioritization. Over a period of time, if you're working on the same product, you would want to get better at all of those things. It just makes conversations easier. It builds empathy. There are all those benefits of getting technically more uh, proficient with the product. You can also make better trade-offs if you understand the technical challenges involved. And the same goes for analytics as well, right?
Yeah.
um so I guess that would be my answer to the tech question.
Maybe just a last question, since a lot of folks, like I shared, are super young, starting their journey. What are some common mistakes that you notice young folks who are starting out their product careers make? Any common mistakes that people should generally avoid, and which people usually fall in the trap of at the early stages of their career?
I think it's hard for me to remember. I'll tell you my common mistakes, and I've still
Sure.
not overcome them. um
Sure.
so I think in meetings, listen more, take notes, and that's one thing that I still sometimes forget to do. And it used to happen at the early part of my career as well. um Second, might be that I think, let's say you have 10 people, with like in an A/B experiment, right? You've controlled for all variables, and you've 10 people who are part of a team. I think just the ability to put yourself outside of your comfort zone and volunteer for things that no one else is doing. Ask for projects which, maybe, you would not expect the norm or hierarchy to actually have you pick up those projects, right? Those are things that early PMs uh, do the mistake of not going for. So they might think that an opportunity or something, or a conversation with someone, is something that they're not supposed to do. So that might be another mistake that you tend to make early on in your career. Um, Three is, I think, not actually taking the time to reflect and document, all of the things that happened within a week. I think the life of a PM early on gets really busy really fast. And not taking enough time to, like, structurally, systematically reflect on all of the things that you did in a week. I think that took me like a lot of time to actually pick up and put into a system. So that's another thing I wish I had done earlier on in my career.